Well, hello there again, my lovely friends. It is a Tuesday back with another layout share for you. And this is from my empty box series. But I wanted to include some of the footage on how I select my papers. And I am just going through my stash and figuring out which papers I think I would like to use for this photo. And some of these are quite old, and some of them are not quite the style that I do anymore, but they had a soft enough background that would translate, and I liked the colors well enough that I did keep them in the event that I wanted to use them for layout. So that one that is very blue, that is kind of a Baroque pattern in the background, was subtle enough that I can still use that to layer photos or to use as an element on a page. So I'm just wanting to give you a little more insight how I select my photos before I dig into my empty box. And if you are not aware of my empty box series, you can go back to September. There will be a link at the end of this video on how you can subscribe to my channel, visit my website, and see the video that gives you information on how I made the empty box. And hopefully I will have accomplished emptying that box by the end of March. So we shall see. Now, these are the no, these are the papers that I decided to go with. That stencil is one that I grabbed thinking that I would make this starburst type of effect, but only on one side of the background, if that makes sense. So not a complete starburst all over the page, but just on like 2/3 of one half vertically. And so I go to the trouble to draw this out and trim it out, and I wanted to use not just every other starburst pattern, but every pattern. So they were going to be touching. So kind of an array of sunshines, but I end up not liking that idea. And so I change everything, just like I did the other day when I shared my last video with you. It turns out completely different. And I thought that, you know, I would keep it in there so you could see. It's like if you really put some thought into this, no wonder it takes designers days to make a layout, because it is time consuming if you really want to like the end product. And I'm just doing this for fun. I mean, I'm not doing it for a design team or anything. I'm just using my stash, and I really liked this collection when I got it. It is the My Mind's Eye collectible, and all of the colors go together fantastically with the photo. Now the photo is a picture of a cookbook that I got because I thought I would try veganism. And I've always been a health fanatic, and I've always really liked to exercise, and I like nutrition, I like cooking. I'm very, very domesticated, and so I get great pleasure out of trying new recipes, and I have quite the array of cookbooks. Well, I've always kind of struggled with my weight and had to be very diligent, and so I thought, well, I'll give veganism a try. It's good for the planet, it's good for animals, maybe it'll be good for me, you know. And I did give it a college try. I mean, for 3 months I did not eat one animal anything, and I was already not eating things like cheese and dairy products, so it wasn't a big transition as far as, you know, I was just swapping out. Well, I guess it was a big transition because I usually eat high protein, low carb, no dairy, no fruit. And this was completely swapping the high protein for high carb. And guess what happened? I got really, really, really tired. And I mean, I was so tired. It was crazy. And I was taking B supplements. And I put on 12 pounds. And so no more veganism for me. I went back to the way I know what works to keep my weight under control. Now, I still haven't lost those 12 pounds, but it was a good experiment. I mean, I think everybody's genetics are different. We are all, you know, made up of different DNA and, you know, different regions, and some of us have larger frames than others. Some of us have more muscle mass than others. Alan would do very, very well on a vegan diet, but I can't get him to do it. I've gotten him to do some veganism, or not veganism, vegetarian, because he's supposed to be vegetarian according to his doctor, but he won't stick to complete vegetarian. He won't even do it 50% of the time. But at least this was a good experiment. You know, I like to put my body through trial and error. So lesson learned, I'm not meant to be a vegan, but I feel much better now. I've been back to the old way I eat, and I've been hitting the gym really, 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 really hard. And so I am hoping to see some changes this year. I still haven't lost any of the vegan weight. So once you gain it, you may have trouble losing it, just so you know. Of course, my age doesn't help, but I digress. I'll go back to the layout. As you can see, I totally scrapped the idea of the sunburst to the left side, and I decided to cut off the tips of those sunbursts and start making just a wonky banner. And so why not? You know, I thought this is a celebration and a point of new trial. Like, one of the labels I use says make the days count, and I certainly do try to do that. I have gone through many experiments in my life to see the outcome, especially with health and nutrition and fitness. And so, you know, this is just another chapter, another phase that I've tried in my life to conquer being healthy or staying healthy. I am very healthy, but and I have a thyroid issue, which makes it even harder to keep weight off. And I'm also very muscular just by nature, and so I build muscle very, very easily, but I do not lose fat easily. So I do decide to sew down these banners in place, and I leave some of the strings so that it looks purposeful, like it is actually hanging from a banner. And I always struggle with placement of banners, but I kind of like how these placed, and so I just backed my photo with the other, you know, some of the papers that I had trimmed up into those banners. And then I took my Tim Holtz scissors and I trimmed just the tiniest little bit off of the bottom, just so I could have a peak of color showing at the bottom that gives it a little bit of a foundation, so it's not just banners floating in the air. It looks like it's actually on top of something. So I'm going to trim those little banner pieces off to make it nice and square. And I pretty much decide that I'm going to keep the photo where it kind of landed there on the left side, the lower left. And I'm going to start to embellish and go through my empty box. And so I'm kind of digging through my products and figuring out what it is I would like to use. I did end up pulling some washi and just a very, very small hint of that washi. It added a couple of other colors underneath the photo that you're also going to see just a tiny bit in the photo itself and also in one of the pieces of ephemera. So it doesn't look like it's the only thing on the page that has a little bit of pink and red to it. So this was a teeny tiny little scrap I had in my box, and I end up adding that because it was just kind of blending into the background, and I did want the photo not to blend. All those colors were from the same collection, so it just kind of, it just melted into the page, and I wanted it to stand out just a little bit. So that's why I brought in that little tiny piece of dark branding strip. I did interview some wood veneer. I think the only wood veneer that I kept is going to end up going in that upper right hand corner. The typewriter I thought was fitting because it, you know, is a book. But it was just too big. I feel like it overwhelmed the photo. So I just took some of this pink paisley ephemera and went through it, and I tuck that cocoa sugar and flour canisters underneath. The colors I could not have planned that better. The colors match beautifully and is related to food, so I thought that was very cute. I'm also going to pull, what is it? Okay, the ephemera that I pulled from Paige Evans is from the Oh My Heart ephemera. And I'm kind of going through, I believe this is Dear Lizzie, and I want to say it's the Saturday collection. And I like that label that says, less worry, love more, and make the days count. And make the days count is kind of my title for this page. I'm not the greatest at making giant titles with thickers like some people are, but I make it work. I definitely do have my own style. What else? Oh, I thought that I would also use these numbers from Dear Lizzie, but I thought they were too big for the page, so I'm going to pull those off. And I do like the camera. The camera does stay. I think it is adorable. And I'm going to tuck that right underneath the label that says Make the Days Count. I don't know where this chipboard came from. It was apparently something I tried out on another layout and did not care for, and it just went right back into the empty box. The little wood label says Getting Started. And I'll also pull a cork label, and I believe those are both from Citrus Twist kits, and it will say A Good Read, and I'll build that little cluster there in the upper right. What else do I do here? I'm just kind of securing things down, I guess. I figured out placement, so I want to secure them down. So there you can see I've added that cork label. And I've also fussy trimmed out a label from a Citrus Twist cut apart that says Just Begin. So normally I would know what to do with these types of ephemera pieces, but I think they all tell the story really well on this layout. I also journal on the back like I typically do. For whatever reason, I like my handwriting but not on my pages, so I just take a 3x4 card and journal on it and put it on the back, unless I have a lot to say, and then I do a 4x6. I think I finished this up with just some of these Amy Tan, I believe those are Wild at Heart enamel hearts, and also some splatters. Oh, this one little label says Firsts, and I don't know what that came off of. It was just in the empty box. So that's the fun thing about the empty box. You've got collections or you've got kits, and you just all put them in this box, and sometimes you lose the labels and you don't know what you got, but it works. You can use it up. So I finished with my splatters in Jenny B Blue from Shimmers, and that completes the layout. Easy peasy after I figured out I didn't really want to do a starburst. So, that's it. I am going to be back from Creativation on the 22nd and should be all settled in by the 23rd or 24th. And I may have one more video in between now and then, but please give me a thumbs up and check out the Cheeky Studio Facebook group for updates to Creativation. Ta-ta for now. Bye.
Now